All right, Dan Aquino is back here. We're gonna talk about his Knicks team right here. 9 of their last 12 losing, right? Not too great, but you did blow my Nets by a million, so you know, we're not gonna talk about the Nets, I
Yes,
promise, in this
sorry
at
about
all.
that.
No, it's okay. You don't need to apologize. I'm sure Josh Hart's very happy. But yeah, so we're gonna get into the Knicks team as a whole at this point in January. Obviously, the NBA Cup, super exciting
Yeah, it
for
was, I guess,
some Knick fans.
for some.
You
I think
know,
for many, I would say.
yeah, I mean, Adam Silver wasn't very excited that they didn't hang up a banner, but that was the right decision by Dolan. So, yeah, so just you have the floor here. This Knicks team has struggled, noticeably so. And even though they won by a million points last night to the Brooklyn Nets, who obviously a crosstown rival, we know the Nets are in a situation where they're rebuilding. They're not a great team. They're not a good team, right? And even though they have been playing better recently and they've been competing in these games, this is not what the Knicks are going to be judged on. Obviously, their test is Saturday. You and I discussed them in Philadelphia. So you
Yeah.
have the floor. Go ahead.
All right. I kind of want to just set the table just for anyone that maybe hasn't been following the Knicks very closely. Um, the Knicks started 2-3 uh, with new coach Mike Brown. Everyone was kind of freaking out a little bit in the beginning. But it was chalked up mostly to players trying to adjust to the new system, new roles. Mike Brown adjusting to a whole new team, obviously back as a head coach since he got fired from Sacramento last season. Um, but then the Knicks, after going 2-3, go on a 16-4 stretch that included Josh Hart being inserted back into the starting lineup and kind of everyone playing really well. And that led all the way into the NBA Cup where they beat the Spurs. And we were 18-7 up to that point. The record that's been thrown out a lot since then is we're 8-11. But I kind of wanted to get a little more deeper into that because actually the Knicks went 5-2 after the NBA Cup. So there's apparently word of an NBA Cup curse because the Bucks and Lakers also struggled
I take
after winning
I
the
take
NBA.
responsibility for that. I think I started that. I think there's an NBA Cup curse.
Yeah, I think the Lakers went like 4-10 after winning the NBA Cup, and I think the Bucks went like 3-5 or something like that. So not as prolonged as it's been for the Knicks because we're going on 17 games now, or well, 19 games now since we won the cup, and we're 3 games below 500. But 5-2 right after the cup, that puts us at 23-9. And as you mentioned, since then we're 3-9. We've lost 9 of our last 12. So it's just a stretch that's very mind-boggling because how does a team that starts 23-9, that's not a small sample size, that's over a third of the season, all of a sudden go completely out of whack, can't defend, can't rebound. A top five offense now is struggling to score. It was really confusing for many people. So there's a lot of layers to it that we're going to get into, obviously. There's, the Mike Brown aspect, the Karl Anthony Towns, Michael Bridges, all these things. But I don't think you can point at just one player. One player does not cause a team to out of nowhere lose 9 out of 12. So we can
Mikael
really get in.
Bridges. No, I'm joking.
And I'm sure Nets fans have been enjoying it because Knicks fans are
Well,
like,
no, that we did not enjoy anything about last night. That was brutal. But
well,
enough
last
about my.
night you guys caught us, after a players only meeting that apparently didn't happen, according to Josh Hart, whatever he says. Um, you guys just caught the brunt of that. Um, a team that finally got together and play defense. But in
You
this
don't you
stretch,
don't have to be nice, Dan. It's okay. Like,
I was worried. I really was because in this stretch we've
I was
lost
excited too. I was at my
in this.
brother's basketball game and I checked the score and it's like 38-20. I'm like, okay. They're at home. They need a good start, but you know what? This team has shown fight. And then it was 60-38, and then it was 85-58, and then it was 100-58, and then it was
Yeah,
111-60.
yeah.
So
Um,
good.
and I like Jordy Fernandez was pretty mad about it. Sat the starters, said this isn't acceptable, which is
Hard to be happy about that.
yeah, of course.
The good news is I did see this stat. I think it was Clutch Kings that tweeted it. Said it was like the Nets' performance today was like the lowest point total by a team since 2016. The Dallas
Wow.
Mavericks did that.
Wow.
The good news is the coach of that team was Rick Carlisle. So this is
That's
not
true.
a
Yeah.
attack on Jordy Fernandez, Mark Daigneault. He lost a lot of ugly games during their rebuild with OKC. No one's going to remember them, but it's true.
I
It's
think they had
just
a
the deal.
game they lost to like the Grizzlies by like
Yeah,
50 or
yeah,
60 or
yeah.
something. I
Like
remember
it,
that, yeah.
it happens. It's whatever. It's just embarrassing because, Knicks fans are in my life, and
But I was a little trepidatious. I saw some Knicks fans actually take. I think the Nets were like a plus 420 yesterday to win. They just for fun took it because we've lost to some bad teams in this 3-9 stretch. We've lost to Dallas. We've lost no Anthony Davis. We've lost to the Warriors. We've lost to the Kings, and we also lost to the Hawks without Trae Young. And this also includes a 30-point blowout to Detroit, which isn't fun
well,
because
losing to
they.
the Hawks without Trae Young isn't necessarily something to be upset about.
I didn't want to say it, but you said it now. Because the record shows that they have been better without Trae Young. But you know, that's what it is.
So let me ask you this. Do you think this is a situation where we're just hitting the dog days of January? Obviously, they had a nice, exciting win that meant absolutely nothing, literally,
Yeah,
because it
that's
doesn't count towards the 82
yeah,
game season, which I still think is a disgrace. But to be honest, to be fair to them, they did not. I thought they handled it really well. They showed respect to the cup, the regular season. They're not hanging a banner for it. It's the right decision. But do you think this is just a situation where this is the dog days of January, or do you think there's something more to this? Do you think, obviously, there's a new coach here, Mike Brown, but this is a lot of the players are still the same here. Obviously, there's new pieces each year, but the core is the same here. This team did have moments last year where they struggled in the regular season. They didn't really shine their brightest until the playoffs, until the postseason, until that second round series, to be honest, versus the Celtics. I mean, there were
yeah.
times in that Pistons series where they didn't really look impressive. But what do you think this is? Do you think this is dog days? Do you think they can get over this? This is a weaker conference than last year. What do you think?
That's definitely part of it. You could see it among most of the contenders outside of, I guess, not even OKC had a tough stretch where they were like playing 500 basketball after the NBA Cup as well. And then, the Spurs have dealt with some injuries. Wemby's coming off the bench and stuff, and Denver is obviously not playing without Jokic. Houston has struggled as well, a team that I thought was going to do very well. They've also struggled as well in the past month or so. So that definitely is part of it. This is the same time last year where the Knicks started to struggle a little bit when teams, got more footage on the offensive system that we were running with Cat and Bridges now. And you see still some of those problems present in the starting lineup when you have Hart and Cat playing together. Teams are putting their center on Josh Hart, forcing him to be a more of an offensive threat, and Cat is being guarded by a bigger wing, which he's yet to really get over. Because it's been 19 games where we've kind of looked really bad and we're 3 games below 500, there has to be a little more to it. And I think it's kind of everything. I think this whole ecosystem of this team now with Mike Brown kind of in the mix, you're noticing I would say a resistance to change and how hard that's been over the course of the season, especially with Cat, because he's struggling so much. He's having quite literally one of the worst shooting seasons of his career. Last season, he was 24 points per game, 13 rebounds on 53% shooting, 42% from the three. This year, he's down to 20 points per game, 11 rebounds, shooting 47% from the field, 36% from three. That'd be the worst since his rookie season. And on trail threes, trailing a play, he was hitting 40% last year. It's down to 19%. He's also down to 59% at the rim. He was up at 66 last year. So quite literally, he has struggled so much under Mike Brown, and a lot of that has had to do with the change in his role because Mike Brown's brought in a system where he's more of a hub offensively, kind of similar to what Mike Brown did with Sabonis, and that doesn't really fit Cat's skill set too much. And Cat, I think, feels the pressure of having to be that second option. He's the highest paid player on the team, and he's really struggled with that. And of course, he has the silly fouls, and he has the arguing with the refs and stuff like that, and that kind of messes with his mental as well. And I think it messes with the team too, because there's a lot of games. I think specifically against the Suns, we've played them twice in this 8-11 stretch. We've lost them both times. They're a pretty good team. Credit to them. Dylan Brooks having a great season, but teams that are very physical. We saw this in the Detroit series as well. Teams being very physical, Knicks try to match that, and they end up getting into it with the refs, and they're not getting the calls that they think, and it kind of messes with their flow. And I think that's just kind of the overarching theme of this team. This team. So one of my friends asked me, he's like, "You think this team likes each other?" I think they like each other, but the same way you like your coworkers.
Well, I
Like I
hope
don't think,
listen. I hope they that
but
was the
I don't think,
buy-in on,
yeah,
but for Leon Rose, like this was the buy on chemistry. That's why that was the defense of giving up the assets that they gave up from Mikal Bridges, which is like we're betting on the charisma, not really the charisma, the chemistry of this team more than star power. And to see how that's a question mark is very concerning, I think.
yeah. So I think it's just very delicate. I think when everything's going well, everyone likes each other, everyone's good, and it works, and it's very good. But the second something's thrown out of whack, just anything, whether it's an injury or playing 5 games in 7 nights or something, any type of adversity, and something goes off, it kind of all falls apart into a sense, and that is worrisome. And that's something that we hope that now coming out of this Nets game, we have the Philadelphia game on Saturday. We'll see if the Nets game was like, all right, we're back, we're locked in, we're going to understand our roles, we're going to buy into this Mike Brown system, or are we going to just continue to teeter up and down until probably the All Star break or until the trade deadline? Because there are names on the Knicks in trade rumors, and you know how that could mess with people's heads as well.
Well, I thought, Mike Brown, what he did in Sacramento, considering where Sacramento is now and where they have been as a franchise basically since 2007 or 6 or whenever the last time they made it was, um, it was very impressive what he did, and he did it with Fox and Sabonis. I thought he would be willing to, obviously Towns and Brunson are different players than De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis. I just
Mm.
thought he would do a better job of adjusting to their games and having them flourish. You know, uh, Say what you want about the Tibbs Cat relationship. Cat played a lot better under Tom Thibodeau than he is playing under Mike Brown right now. And that leads me to my next thing, which is like Tom Thibodeau was beloved by Josh Hart, um, and Jalen Brunson, the best player on the team. It's really rare that you see the best player on the team really love the head coach. And this is someone that and leading to their firing. That's what I mean. It's not that it's rare that they love the head coach. It's more that
Yeah.
Brunson and Tibbs clearly had a really strong relationship to the point where Brunson reacted kind of in sorrow once that decision was made. It leads to my question. Tom Thibodeau was. I just continue to believe that most Knicks fans didn't really understand what they had with Tom Thibodeau, or at least like replacing him wasn't going to be easy. Like, I think that's a different, because you could say Tom Thibodeau's not the guy, we have a ceiling with Tibbs, but you have to have a good idea of a replacement, if you're going to let someone who like that go. I mean, you went to the conference finals for the first time in over 20 years. He's the coach that did that, and it's not that long ago that the Knicks were in a situation where they were just begging to be relevant. So, just what do you think the differences are between Tom Thibodeau and Mike Brown? Who were your preferred candidates to come in to coach the Knicks this year? And do you think we could reach a point here with Brown at the end of the season where the Knicks could be looking for another coach in the summer?
Yeah, all the things you said are true. I am very appreciative of Tibbs. Obviously, he came in a time where the Knicks were trying to gain some sort of stability and relevance, and they did that. And a lot of that credit goes to Julius Randle as well. And I know there's people that like to go back and say, oh, what did we do? The 2024 Knicks, all that stuff. But I agree. I think there was a ceiling with Tibbs. It didn't show in the regular season, which is kind of the difference we've seen this season, where it's like the growing pains and the struggles are coming in the regular season more so than in the playoffs. I think 3 straight years we went to the playoffs with Tibbs with a team that I thought was more talented than the team that we ended up losing to. Maybe last year is a little arguable, but the year before when we lost to the Pacers as well, we were better. And then the year before that to the Heat, a lot of that obviously Randall didn't play that series, but I was happy with the signing of Mike Brown. Obviously, what he did in Sacramento was an assistant with the Warriors, and he has a finals appearance all the way back. Obviously, those with LeBron, but there are concerns with his coaching style. Is he an authoritative figure? Does he demand the respect of the players he coaches the same way Tibbs did? Tibbs was very rigid, but he was also very stern. And I think and I understand Brunson's affinity, his heart as well, because they flourished under Tibbs. You know, they became the players they are today under Tibbs. And a lot of that had to do with the focus on them. But I think at the end of the day, for the offense to really flow, for our team to succeed, we needed someone a little more creative, someone a little more flexible. And I think that's what Brown is. But
I mean, that's what James Dolan said, right? And like a
yeah,
few weeks
because
ago, yeah.
he's the one who really headed the firing of Tibbs. He talked to the players, you know, and I think you could credit Deuce and Michael Bridges really didn't like Tibbs. And I think they were probably the bigger voices in terms of getting rid of Tibbs. Whether that's right or wrong, is your opinion. Um, but I think what they really got to figure out is the way they want to play, which is moving the ball, playing with pace. I don't know how much pace this roster can really play with because it's not a super young roster. It's not a lot of guys that run up and down. It's a lot of style, finesse kind of skilled players. It's hard to play really fast with that type of, you know, roster, but I think playing fast, which they've been doing faster than they were last year, shooting more threes, shooting better from three, which they've both done also this season, shooting 38% as a team from three, and that's third in the league. It's a big stylistic change that I think they're gonna continue to work at throughout the regular season. But the problem that's you look around the roster and it's like, all right, where's this um, fix going to come is on defense. And that's really been the worst part of this stretch. They've been one of the worst defenses in the league um, over this 8 and 11 stretch. And they weren't great on defense last year, but they were at least average on defense. They were much better. I think they were 14th or 15th at the end of the season in defense efficiency. I'm not sure what it is right now for the season, but we've been, I think, 29th since the NBA Cup. So that's really, really bad. You cannot win a championship with a bottom five defense. You can't even win a championship with a bottom 10 defense. You have to be at least an average defense we've seen over the past couple of years and a really good offense, a top five offense, which I think we can be to win a title. And that's what you're looking for, right? Because that's the expectation that was set this season to at least make the NBA Finals. That's why you trade 5 first-round picks for Michael Bridges. And you got to take advantage of the fact that the East is the weakest it's been in I don't know how long, right? Detroit is the number one seed, and they're not an unbeatable team,
Mhm.
despite how good they've played. They have
Yeah,
one
I mean,
superstar.
listen, the good news is that this is a conference that is very much up in the air. The bad news is it provides so much pressure for this team to make the finals. Because
Yeah.
if the team doesn't make the finals, you have very little outs because of the assets that you've given up for Mikal Bridges, which is why I'm very happy with that trade. But we're I'm going to I'm going to ask you some other possibilities that could maybe happen. First off, if there is there a coach out there that you preferred more than Mike Brown? That's my first one.
That was not the coach of another team. I can't remember because
It's hard for you because you're not in those meetings, you're not in those rooms, you don't know
I
what they're
really
saying.
feel like they wanted Jason Kidd and they thought they could
Did
try.
you specifically want somebody though? Like, was there one that you're like, you know what, I'd be really good with that.
Um, it's hard to remember who was available at that
Well,
time.
it could be. Listen, you could use your imagination here. They could have went to Danny Hurley. They could have went to there was I'm forgetting one of the assistants. It's hard, like I was somebody who very much wanted Mike Budenholzer and didn't know who Jordy Fernandez was, and Jordy Fernandez ended up being what I believe is the right decision. Um, just to go back to your Tibbs thing, it's easy because we're on the outside looking in to look at the Tibbs decision and be like, that was stupid. Look what they did. I'm someone I wouldn't have fired Tibbs personally because I didn't think there was another coach out there that was better than him personally. I think you could have made that decision in another summer. I just thought what they did in the postseason was improbable, especially versus Boston. And I think
Yeah,
he deserved a lot of credit for that, despite how they looked clunky in that first season. But a lot of people had a similar feeling to when my team fired Kenny Atkinson. What people don't remember is that the year Kenny got fired, things were weird, and he wasn't even coaching the Stars yet. It was like Kenny seemed to be grading on some of these players a little bit. And they were blowing a lot of leads. They were under 500. And it just didn't look great. And then the Nets made a decision. Now they unfortunately replaced him with someone like Steve Nash, who ended up being a huge risk and a huge letdown. But you're even seeing it now with Cleveland. Like Kenny has this awesome first
yeah,
season with Cleveland, and now this year just it looks like something's off. And sometimes it's the NBA that's seasons. You got to give coaches time to do things. But it seemed like last year something was weird with the Knicks where I could at least understand why they would think about making a decision like that. So there's that. But let me ask you this, we're leading to a point. We're leading to the trade deadline. Giannis and the Bucks situation. Bucks just got blown out by Oklahoma City last night. They had no shot. They
mm,
have no direction. They're in these John Morant talks. They're like trying to save whatever situation they're in. They have no future assets to move. They really are stuck. A Knicks Bucks trade really doesn't make any sense for the Milwaukee Bucks. However, it could be just a situation where Giannis is like, I'm only going there. We all know he requested a trade to the team this summer. It didn't come to fruition because it's just hard to make that trade work without
yeah,
gutting the entire team. But are we in a situation now where the Knicks may actually, and we know what James Dolan said on his interview with Craig Carton a few weeks ago,
yeah.
that he doesn't anticipate any moves. You got to stick with this group. This group has played well together. I would say they probably don't do it, but what do you think?
Um,
At least the deadline. Like I
yeah,
think they have to see. I think they see how this season works out in the summer. They make a decision like that. But
yeah,
who
I
knows
don't
if
think,
Giannis is available at the deadline by then? I have no idea.
yeah, I don't think you pull the plug on this specific group at the deadline. I think it'd be a little too reactionary and drastic because we were only 2 games better. I'm sorry, 2 games better last year at this point. You got to see what happens in the playoffs, right? Because we were what 0-8 against the Celtics and Cavs, the two better teams in the Eastern Conference last year. We end up beating the Celtics. The Cavs end up losing in the second round. If game one goes differently against the Pacers, who knows, right? You never know what happens in the playoffs, what matchups you draw. So I think you ride with this group. I think at the deadline, they're going to make probably a small move or two. I know they're shopping Yabusele, which it's really crazy how that just did not work
Yeah,
out. I
it's
mean,
it's weird that that didn't pan out.
he's been really bad this year, I do kind of feel bad because it did seem like he really wanted to be a Knick and he was trying to buy into whatever Mike Brown was telling him to do, but it just hasn't worked out. So he's being shopped, and I wouldn't be surprised if they moved one of the younger players, Dadier or Tyler Kolek, either with Yabusele or in something separate, just to get a player that maybe can play some defense, bring some kind of toughness to the bench unit. Um, as it comes to Giannis, it would be very difficult to do a Knicks Bucks trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. If it was just those two teams, it would likely take losing two of either Michael Bridges, OG Anunoby, or Karl Anthony Towns because you have to make the money work, and the Bucks have to get, and we don't have draft picks, first round picks to give the Bucks. That would make them, say, "Ah, this is a good deal for us." So it would take multiple other teams to fulfill that draft assets that the Bucks are going to need. And because they're a small market team, I don't think they can just take whatever they get. Like they need a great offer, right?
Yeah.
Giannis Antetokounmpo is still a top three player in the league,
Mm.
even though he's on the other side of 30. He's still a very good player. I think he still has multiple seasons left of being an all NBA caliber player, barring health. So of course I would love Giannis Antetokounmpo.
The
Um,
Bucks picks are in, I believe, in Atlanta and New Orleans, correct?
yes,
I
they.
think
I know.
that's
I
where
know.
they
I know.
are.
Atlanta has one of them. I'm not.
So I believe those are the two teams because that was the Drew Holiday trade um, with New Orleans, but that was a few years ago now. So I'm a little I probably should have done my research on knowing where exactly these picks are. But
They don't have a lot of their own picks. That is
I
true.
don't think they have any from my understanding. If I don't think they have control of them. Um, the Knicks actually had one of them. They gave it to Brooklyn to for McCall. I'm not specifically sure, so take that with a grain of salt.
The
But I
the
would
Knicks the
think,
Knicks the Knicks could possibly have one pick if the
y-
Wizards decided they wanted to win some games, but
well, it
they
doesn't look
don't.
like that's going to happen. But
It does not look like it.
I would, I would think that the Bucks are in this Giannis package would try to do something that Brooklyn tried to do, which is call some like one of the teams that has their unprotected pick and try to get it back. I would
So
try
just to clarify, you are
yeah,
correct.
yeah,
And they have a pick swap with Atlanta
yeah.
this year. So Atlanta gets the more favorable pick of the two.
So I see if I'm
And
Giannis,
New Orleans has the pick swap next year.
yeah,
So they will take the better pick of the two. And then Portland has their 2028
because of the
and
new
2030.
CBA, because of the new CBA, I don't. These trade machines are. I don't. It's hard to make these trades work.
Yeah.
If there is a way Milwaukee can get their picks back, or at least one pick back in this Giannis deal, somehow the Knicks get Giannis and maybe they move Cat and Bridges to one of those teams for that draft pick. Whether it's Portland, maybe they have interest in McCall or Cat, or
Hmm.
Atlanta, who has interest in those two, or OG. You got to consider if they're able to make that work somehow. I think that trade instantly becomes a lot more appealing for Milwaukee. But I don't know. You're counting on that Atlanta or Portland has the interest in those guys in the first place. And there's just so many surrounding things that need to go right for this to work. And does Giannis have to play in New York? Is he in a situation where he's like, listen, I'm cool with going to Miami. I'm cool with going to Houston. I'm cool with going to any of these other places. I don't have to play for the Knicks. So it's easy to be like, oh, they just trade for Giannis at the end of the year if it doesn't work out. To be fair, though, I don't think that brings them any closer to winning a championship as it does with this current group. I think all it does is it extends the window a little bit of competing because I don't think Giannis is going to ask out in like 2 years or something if you acquired him. I think he would stay probably somewhat in his prime up until like 2029, 2030. Um, I think it would just extend that window of competing as you're giving your draft picks to us. That's really, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's really what
Hmm.
that does. You have a shot. I'm not going to say you don't have a shot. You would have Jalen Brunson and Giannis on the team. But if you're seeing how these teams are winning these days, it's that depth.
Yeah.
And that's like, so I actually think it might be better to just stay put. But if you are a team in New York, I mean, your fan base is going to be like, how are we going to get better? How are we going to get better? Well, it's hard to get better when you make that deal for Bridges. It's just, but from my understanding, the Knicks do have draft picks they can use to improve this roster over time. They're just going to have to be very creative and crafty. And that's really what it is. And how are young players going to affect a winning team that's trying to compete now? We don't know because apparently Knicks fans think young players and young draft picks mean nothing when they're debating with me about my team.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside to these past couple of years of Leon Rose kind of just punting on the draft. You know, a lot of years we had late first rounders that we kind of just would trade for 2 second round picks.
Yeah.
And like all these young guys we have on our team, except for Dadier, who was a late first round pick in the worst draft in the past like 10, 15 years, right? That 2024 draft.
Yeah.
Um,
This is kind of what happened when you go all in like this on Brunson specifically, which is what they did. It you better hope it works. And so I think like they made this mess and they kind of figure a way out of it. And listen, they're capable of it. I thought they had no shot versus Boston last year. I thought they had no shot.
no,
And they
everybody, yeah,
won. They won. And you know what? The healthiest team gets to the finals. We know this. This is what the case has been in the 2020s. The healthiest team gets to the finals. We don't know what's going to happen still. Dude, I was very adamant that the Knicks would not be making the conference finals last year, and they did. And you know what? They gave Indiana a pretty good series. So, there's things, it's not like the sky is completely falling yet. But
yeah.
there are concerns because it's like if they don't make the finals this year, I was thinking about this. I was like, look at next season. It's like so many East teams are going to be so much better. I mean, I think Orlando's going to be better. I think Atlanta's going to be better. Washington's going to be better. Brooklyn's going to be better. Charlotte's going to be better. And I didn't even list like the best teams. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't bet on Charlotte. I don't know
I mean,
what's
I
going
just
on.
think Charlotte's young talent is really impressive with Miller and Khan and LaMelo Ball you can make a deal,
I'm
but
not
I'm a
sure
huge Byron Khan.
they're super sold on LaMelo Ball.
No, no,
Like
no. I'm just saying like
I think there is
I just think like I'm talking about like even the bottom teams. Like
yeah.
Washington is
Wa-
not going to be a gimme next year.
yeah,
Charlotte's not going to
Washington
be a
for sure.
gimme. And Detroit's not going to be a gimme. Cleveland, we'll see what happens with them, but there's a lot of talent on that team. They're not a gimme. My point being is just like the conference is going to be better.
Yeah.
Boston's going to get Tatum back. They may get Tatum back this year. You might have to worry about that. There's just the conference is much better next season. Philly didn't even mention them. Miami's always around, hovering. So y- y- this is a year where it's huge. I don't want to say like you can't recover, but it's a crucial year, and they knew it, which is why they made the coaching change last summer. So we're gonna have to see if it works out.
Yeah, and thankfully this is coming up now, right? There's still 38 games left in the regular season. You still got a lot, a couple
Yes, middle of the
months,
season, January. It's crap
right?
for a lot of these
Y-
players. And you know what? They had a nice exhilarating win for the NBA Cup. They probably put a lot of effort into that. They clearly cared about it. So it's like we'll see, we'll see.
And consolation, the Pacers did not look like a good team at this point in the season last
Yes,
year.
that's right.
They
I
did not.
remember I notably called them a disaster when I think they were 12 and 15 because I was like, what the hell are they doing? So
Yep.
the NBA regular
So
season,
yeah,
it's very weird, and you can't always. It's really just comes down to who's the healthiest team and who's hot at the time. It's becoming that recently because the league is just so talented. There's a lot of deep teams now. There used to not be. Used to have like the most talented team usually wins. That's not really the case. It's really the healthiest and who's hot at the time. Like Indiana was last year. They caught on, they came on in the playoffs last year.
yeah. Who's
You
healthy?
know,
Who has the depth to withstand
exactly.
the marathon and long season? Yeah,
I
all those
think
things.
I think I took the Bucks last year in the first round because I saw how they played Indiana the year
Yeah,
prior without Giannis, and the Bucks pushed them to six. And I just thought Indiana was very fortunate in their postseason. And clearly proved me wrong. So, you know what I mean? So it's just like
yeah.
things can
You,
happen.
mhm.
And then, with that home court advantage, anything's possible too. So it was weird to see. It felt like it brought me back to the DeAndre Jordan, Lance Thomas days when they were booing Cat the other day. Because I'm like,
Yeah,
this is the last time the
we
Knicks have
got to
been
keep
booed.
we got to keep some perspective. But yeah, the booze, I understood it. Like you expect something of this team, especially with how they played. You're not going to take low effort, and that's just New York,
Yeah.
sports fandom.
Well, as is the case with with you, Dan. Like we always talk for about like 40 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is one subject today. We talked for a long time. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
of
Always
course.
love talking ball with you. And, we'll keep going as the season goes. And I'm not going to be rooting for your Knicks. I'm sorry. But let me just ask you this before you go. Is there a team what teams scare you at this point in the season?
Um, Detroit,
Yeah.
because of their style of play.
Yeah.
They're kind of Oklahoma City, but like to a lesser degree, like in terms of how they're built.
Hmm.
Cade's a great player. He's hard to guard at his size and his skill level. Duren's an all-star
Yeah.
level talent now, which is part of the reason why they've been so good. And if Tatum comes back to the Celtics, who have been much better than I thought they'd be without him,
Yeah. Me
then
too.
they're kind of right back in the mix, right?
Yeah, and
If you,
give Joe Mazzulla credit for
for
what he's
sure.
done this year. I thought he still coached two of the worst fourth quarters in postseason basketball I've ever seen in my life.
It's crazy the way they were all season to then
Yeah.
become that in the playoffs. I'll
And
take it,
Jalen
but
and listen,
it was
Jalen
something.
Brown, there were questions about Brown last season. Like, is he getting worse? Like, he's always
Yeah,
been a strange player at times where like he would go through these lapses of like not playing well. But this is a dude that has won his whole career and has continued to show up at big moments. He's huge in that championship win a few years ago. And Jalen Brown's
and he's
been an
having
MV. He's having
yeah.
an MVP caliber season, so you got to
Hmm.
give him credit. He's an all-star starter, and Boston is going to be around, and even without Tatum, you have to take them seriously. So before I was like, I still don't think they're better than the Knicks without Tatum. But now I start to think like, well, I have no idea. Everything's
Yeah,
on the table at this point.
it's funny if when we talked preseason, our top three teams were what, Cleveland, New York, and
I had
Orlando.
Cleveland going to the finals. That hasn't aged well.
Cleveland has been probably one of the more disappointing teams this year. Orlando has dealt with injuries
I think
again.
you can make a case Cleveland is the most disappointing.
I mean, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
I think you have to put them at one, unless I'm
have to
missing
be.
somebody.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what their record is, but they're I think seventh seed in the
Yeah,
East, so
yeah.
that's not good.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it as always. And yeah, well,
Of course.
can't wait to talk more hoops, especially with the trade deadline coming up.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
James.